Hey, Super Pals, James Ashby here. I just wanted to thank everyone so much for their patience during the Kickstarter and live show kickoff, and to give an update on what's going on with the old YouTube channel moving forward. I really appreciate all of the support that everybody showed during the hand-to-mouth Kickstarter. I can't tell you what that meant to me, but we also know that people fell in love with SMBC Theater for comedy more than cooking, and honestly, since I've let myself start to think in terms of sketches again, I've gotten really excited. So, in September, I'll be posting the final SMBC Theater compilation, including smash hits like Existential Crisis and Dragons, Battleship Cathy, Gaff, No Santa, Ugly Duckling, Culture Warriors, and tons more. But then the next week, I'll be posting my first sketch in 7 years under the new name Hand to Mouth Theater, my new sketch comedy podcast. If you are a fan of the old sketches, I hope you'll come check out my new stuff. I'm really looking forward to it, and you might hear a familiar voice or two here or there. For today, I'm leaving you with a taste of the 2 new live show podcasts that will be running every weekend on Twitch, and then posted for posterity on our new Hand to Mouth Club YouTube channel. We kick things off Friday with SMBC Theater's CHASON Chaffin and CHASON's Couch Crew, a new live stream podcast where CHASON and I try out 3 super indie games for half an hour each. The games tend to be way off the beaten path, and I think that leads to good conversation and a ton of stupid jokes. There's a little highlight sample at the end of this video, so check it out and then join us Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Then Sundays, I'll be live with Hand to Mouth Club, sharing recipes, techniques, tips, and interviews, including this week's podcast with SMBC Theater star Felicity Doyle and her recipe for migas. Keep opening your email, T-Seb. Special people get special things. See you in September, Super Pals, and be sure to join the Discord. There's tons there for free, and it's been a blast reconnecting with all the old fans. Links for everything in the comments. Okay, time for migas. Right now, Felicity Doyle, we are live on the internet. Thank you so very much for joining us. Obviously, if you are a fan of SMBC Theater, we already know who Felicity Doyle is, as she starred in like half of them or more. But if anybody who doesn't know, Felicity was part of SMBC Theater pretty much from day one, and was a recurring star, was in some of our biggest hits, was the voice of Toll in Starpocalypse, as well as puppeteering the robot. Has done a ton. Now, it's been 7 years, so believe it or not, Felicity Doyle has done something with herself since we all stopped doing weird garage sketches way back when. And in that time, she has left Los Angeles and moved to an undisclosed area somewhere in the New York zone. And right. Is now writes for Tasted. Is that correct?
No, I've written for Thirsty.
Thirsty. That's what I was thinking of.
Drinks blog, yeah, and a couple other like beer blogs. So
very cool. So you've kind of in that food and wine world, and I know you've always been a big cooking enthusiast. So I was really thrilled to have you here, not just because I know the old fans are excited to see the Felicity Doyle after so long, but also I know that you have had to weather some financial stress here and there from time to time, and might have a good broke recipe or two for us. So what are we doing?
The first thing that came to my mind is called migas. Basically, tortillas, cheese, eggs, and any kind of combination of vegetables or whatever you want to put in there. I realized when I looked it up on the internet, I was like, I didn't actually know this was called migas. I've had migas before, but it's sort of like this breakfast principle of, hey, I want some bread-like thing, and I want eggs and cheese. I'm out of bread. I have tortillas. Simple solution kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up, as you certainly know, in Southwest Texas, where migas are sort of a way of life. They are inevitably in your refrigerator in Southwest Texas. You have some old salsa, some stale corn chips, and a couple of eggs that you meant to cook earlier in the week. And so migas are a very popular hangover cure kind of dish where I'm from.
Yeah, think I had them for the first time when I was driving across country with Betsy, who was one of my best friends, but she was in SMBC with all of us.
Yes, Betsy
But,
Drake Studstill from
yeah.
many classic sketches back in the day.
Yeah. So I first had migas with her in that context.
Oop.
See, when I make this, it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 3 o'clock, for example, and I haven't had anything to eat, and I'm like really starving. I don't know. Do you care about cussing?
No, not even a little bit. My God, I like the number of times I'm gonna end up saying "fuck" on this channel is just impossible to fathom. So one thing I'm thinking about doing is, just as a quick aside to the audience, is I'm thinking about occasionally doing a live version of some of the audio sketches that I'm preparing, where I just kind of do it live or whatever. So curse words are 1,000% in play, because I think you remember from when I wrote sketches back in the day. There's definitely going to be a fuck or two, as well as many another curse. So yeah, please. This is super relaxed. I do not feel like you need to self-edit in any way. I don't care about YouTube monetization, if that's your concern.
We gotta let ourselves express ourselves now, so it's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, I'm kind of taking hand to mouth and kind of bringing it sort of to represent my perspective of growing up pretty broke and that kind of thing. And I don't know anybody who grew up broke that doesn't curse. I can't even fathom what that unless you're a very extreme version of Christian homeschooler maybe that only said sugar when you meant shit. But other than that, I've just never met it. So yeah, no, we're gonna curse all the time.
Right. And it's also, the sign of intelligent, smart people. So
I've heard that.
Let the roll off. I've heard that, and I love it.
I do too. I feel like it's proof that I'm smart, and I'll take any proof that I'm smart. No problem.
Same here.
Okay, so the first time you had migas, you were on a road trip with Betsy Drake Studstill. I assume you guys stopped in Texas. I hope you had migas in Texas for the first time. I know Betsy ended up in the Texas area.
We took the boring Midwest route because we were coming from Boston, so we were trying to get to California as quickly as possible. So we went through Kansas.
Yeah. Road hypnosis corridor. The road hypnosis corridor, where you start seeing the road move and you're not, and think to yourself, that's not safe.
Yeah.
That is a wild place to first try migas. Although I feel like, people get precious about these kinds of things too, and really what is migas but cheese and egg, and as you said, a kind of stale bread-like product, and then you pour salsa on it, and you say, migas! And you can do more than that, but it's not bad.
And what you're looking for, if you're hungover or not, you just want carbs, fat, protein, quickly.
Beautiful comfort food. Excuse me. Professional. So you were also, if I remember correctly, you do the cold brew coffee as well, and you were going to share that just for a second as to how you approach.
Yeah, I'll show. I told James I was going to make it on camera, but I needed it before signing on.
I think that's completely acceptable.
There's not cold brew, but let me try it. Depends on what coffee shop you go to, but it can be called a Japanese style iced coffee, which is another type of cold brew coffee making. But basically, you're making a pour over. When you go to a third wave shop, they'll do an individual cup for you.
Yes, the $8 cup of coffee.
Yeah, 5, 5 to 6. 8 would be pushing it. I'd want there to be maybe some alcohol in there. So
that seems fair. Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah. So basically, you the amount of hot water you would normally use. for the recipe, which is something around 400 grams to 28 grams of coffee, in that ballpark, depending on the coffee that you're using. But you just like, you're supposed to, if you have a scale, which I don't, so I just eyeball like half the amount of weight in ice and then the other half in hot water. So, and then it just like
Oh,
melts.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you literally just filtered that coffee directly into that over the ice. So it just dripped over it slowly to sort of bring it down to cold really fast. Is
Yeah.
that the idea?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. I've never seen that before, actually. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Oh, one second, Pylon. Thank you so much for tuning in. And yes, I am super pumped that Hand to Mouth is back as well. If anybody out there who is new, we are doing live streams every Sunday starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. We are also going to have some more composed and edited content soon. I am just getting my feet under me. I sort of got hugely surprised by how excited people were for a little bit more hand to mouth and to hear from me. I thought maybe I'd raise a little bit of money and then you would hear from me in a few months when I had the hand-to-mouth polished episodes done. But people were so enthusiastic and so supportive that we smashed through a bunch of stretch goals, including the live stream goal. So now we're doing our hand-to-mouth club Sundays and chatting with people, sharing recipes, sharing a little bit of humor, and just having a good time. If you are new, come on through. I hope you'll join the Discord. This is much more about a community than it is about any one individual platform or piece of media. I think that there is a dearth of entertainment and community for people that are financially struggling, but are intelligent and interested and curious and worthy people that maybe are talked down to, dismissed, or disappeared generally. So thank you so much for being here with me. We're here with Felicity Doyle of SMBC Theater, who has been heating a pan while I've been blathering, and will now be taking it over as she has already showed us a way to make iced coffee that I'm actually really excited by because I love an iced coffee. I lived in LA for long enough to have that kind of bougie taste for sure. And if I could do something fancy like that, especially for my wife, who also likes a bougie coffee from time to time, I'm definitely stealing that because I've got one. I mean, I don't have the nice ceramic one you have. I have the truck stop plastic drip cone version, but it does the same thing.
It works, you know.
Yeah.
If it works, it works.
Yeah. I'm sure I get more lead and weird Chinese chemicals than you do with the ceramic. And the ceramic single drip is not an expensive item. I would encourage people to consider it. That being said, you could also probably, yes, you could get away with a hand sieve and a coffee filter in it. It would just be really, really janky.
I've done that. So I've done that with like regular cold brew. It's a mess and you have to filter it like several times, but it works.
That's the key. The key to savings is being willing to suffer or being bright. But sometimes it's both.
Yeah. Real quick, just because on being broke and drinking coffee. So I like go to a coffee shop down the street instead of like buying coffee maybe twice a day in normal times. So I just go get a bag of coffee from, I don't know how long it lasts me, like 10 days. But.
Well, and not to disclose where you're living, but there are areas of New York that are renowned for having local coffee roasters and shops. I imagine you can find some pretty good stuff.
Yeah, there's a handful of like bigger ones. There is, like, I live in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, because of like space in New York, a lot of like, there's a coffee roasting space in, I think, Red Hook.
Oh, interesting. Right,
well, like,
right.
Multiple companies will share a warehouse space.
That makes a ton of sense.
Okay, so I've heated my pan. I'm starting with onions because onions are always delicious. This might be too hot. We'll see. Sizzle.
Sorry, the hand-to-mouth secret ingredients 99% of the time. Onions and garlic. So we're like, I'm not sure how to make this tasty. What should I do? Have you tried onions yet? Yes. Have you tried onions and garlic? Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Hot. Kind of hot. So I start with onions and you like let them go for a few minutes. Um, I use kosher salt pretty much for everything, unless pretty much for everything. I put like a tiny pinch of salt, and so you're like,
Yeah, I switched to kosher salt kind of this year finally. And one thing that I realized was it was a different product from just the regular iodized salt that I had been used to. I find I need a lot less of it actually to get the same kind of saltiness than I did from the iodized.
well, yeah. Also, like iodized salt, it's a finer grain, so you're actually getting more like surface area and saltiness.
Interesting.
Yeah. Also, like talk about things that came out of the depression, like last century. I think iodine was this nutrient that they wanted to add to salt, so they made sure people would get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily taste good.
No, it kind of
So,
makes everything taste just a little bit like a tin can. But you do get in iodine.
yeah.
But no, I think it's something. I'm of two minds of it. I think if you don't get enough iodine in your diet, there's still some people who probably benefit from that at this point. But if you're eating enough greens, you probably don't need it, and it certainly does impact flavor.
Yeah. Things we don't think about.
Huh. So we've got someone in chat saying that iced coffee is currently their favorite. They've gone as far as buying a copper tube to bend into a coil to cool coffee down.
Yeah.
That is intense.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Because otherwise the hot coffee brewed directly onto the ice would dilute it. So they have at this point they're trying to have their ultra concentrated iced coffee. Yeah, I feel like at that point I would just do cold brew and reheat if I wanted a particular temperature. If I was that concerned, bendy brass tube feels too far for me. I'm too lazy for that.
All right. So I added tomatoes in here. I don't.
There you go. So we've just got some. Those look like cherry tomatoes, and is that just yellow onion?
I think it's a yellow onion.
I never really
Yeah.
draw that much distinction. I've never once in my life thought, oh, I can't make this dish. I have the wrong onion. It's just never occurred to me.
Yeah. I never like take the time to learn actually, like pay attention when I'm cooking. Like I like this onion. I don't.
Yeah.
And then I just chopped a clove of garlic. Okay, tortillas. Um, so for this, I'm gonna do 2 eggs, and I like to do 3 tortillas. Depending on where you live, in New York and in LA, I know there are plenty of places where you can get like fresh, locally made from tortillerias. I think these were made in the Bronx.
Nice.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You look for the biggest bag with the worst logo that is the least welcoming to you, and you will find the right bag of tortillas.
Yeah, I know. When I was shopping, Guerrero is a big brand. I think they're from Texas, so you can find them a lot of places.
Yes, I would say avoid Mission Tortilla. You know, the really the reverse essentially stands to be the case, which is if you remember a commercial of it or it looks like it's comfortably packaged for a Whole Foods or another fancier grocery store, that's the wrong tortilla. You're about to eat something real stale that might as well be a biscuit but isn't.
Yeah. Well, and I grew up in Southern California, so I'm just sort of used to You buy fresh raw tortillas and you put them on the stove. Like that's just how it's done. And it
Yeah.
tastes a hell of a lot better.
Oh, I didn't even call. Oh, I missed that you were doing this. This is such a great technique. I love it. So you just have
Okay,
that
yeah.
straight up on the burner.
Yeah.
Nice.
I figure I've already like developed the immunity to whatever it is that's on here that can kill me. So.
What can't kill us these days? Nobody's making it for more than 5 years. Cook your tortillas on the stove.
Yeah.
But I love that. I love pointing out too that that doesn't burn. I think a lot of people would be concerned that that would start a fire, and obviously you don't want to walk away from that. That's something to watch. But that works. That's the way you want it. That way you get that toast on it. Yeah.
Got some char, you, and then the tortilla like puffs up a little bit.
So when
yeah,
do you know it's
compared to a lot
done?
of
Is it a smell thing, or is it just kind of you wing it?
I'd say it. You know, it's mercurial. It depends on what my vibe is.
Totally.
But smell, yeah, like I actually don't really like more than that.
That makes sense. Just enough to get a little bit of flavor and make sure it's all warmed up.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I love this. This to me also feels like a dish that is fairly low mess, in that you can do a lot of it in that one pan. I'm guessing, which means if you're just doing
Yeah.
that and you're heating tortillas on your burner, you're tamping down on the amount of dishes that you're going to have to do. This is also a great dish for a post bacchanal kind of evening when your kitchen is already ruined because you don't need a lot of space to
Yeah.
make it.
Yeah. I know it, like, especially with how much I think we're all probably cooking at home now.
It's kind of wild. I hadn't really even thought about that when I kind of started relaunching Hand to Mouth. To my mind, I was really just looking at the economic numbers and thinking about how screwed so many people are going to be over the next year or two, if not longer, and that there just wasn't that much talking about it in that way or in a way that was comforting. But we started, and of course, everybody's like, "Oh, this is great! I have to cook at home all the time now because I'm locked in my house and can never leave." And you're like, "Oh, right! Everybody needs to figure out how to make the pantry work a little bit and figure out how the special, to shop for specials and all that kind of business."
Yeah. I think ultimately it's going to be very good for the American people, but like and food cultures, but it's still like absolutely frustrating. And I know if you're married or in a partnership or whatever, like oh, I have to cook again. Like it's this.
Yeah, yeah. That moment, I think for a lot of people, there's some aspects of kind of general life that have been so performative or converted into a source of entertainment over the last couple, like since essentially as long as I've been alive, probably as long as you've been alive, in terms of just this sort of ever increasing demand for convenience and luxury and reduction of effort in every direction and immediacy of result. And we've all sort of had this giant dopamine machine turned off that has been keeping us distracted and placated for a big portion of our lives. And I think that for a lot of us, we're looking to our left and right and being like, oh, wait, I got so caught up in the flickering and the shadows, I forgot that I'm in my, like for me personally, I'm in my late 30s. I'm going to be like 40 before too much longer. And I'm supposed to be contributing. Like I can't just be smugly on the side anymore, watching things and, sneering and commenting. Like this has been dropped in my lap. This is the thing that my kid's going to look at me and be like, so what did you do when there was a plague and also we almost became a dictatorship? And I don't want my answer to be, I was really bothered by Netflix. There weren't enough shows. You know what I mean? But at the same time, we're locked in our houses and having to sort of ask ourselves, well, what's really important and what do I need to do? Cumin, the secret to all Mexican food, essentially. Why does it not taste right? You didn't ask cumin.
Oh, I'd say it's my favorite spice. I
you
was
know,
doing like cayenne and for a while, and then I'm like, wait, this is too much.
yeah, cayenne's one of those that you can kind of go down a rabbit hole with, and after a while you realize, oh right, it definitely gives some flavor, but there are spices out there that have more olfactory impact than just scorching, which I enjoy. I still like
Yeah,
scorching, but in combination, cayenne and
yeah.
cumin are the secret to great beans.
Ooh, yeah. Beans are having their moment.
They've become a
With
big
my
part of ours. For a couple of reasons. For health concerns, I now have to eat a certain amount of fiber, and beans are easy for that. And they are so cheap and so easy. And it's so, like, beans and rice is such an easy food for a toddler. You can just kind of mix other things into it and say, there you go, it's beans and rice. And they say, yum. Is that spinach? And you say, no, don't worry about it. And they say, yum, and keep eating.
how old is your toddler?
He is 2.5 now. So he's walking around having opinions. We're in quarantine, so we're not going out, and we wouldn't want to spend the money anyway. So we've taken to taking construction paper and paper plates and drawing toys for him. So we now have this huge menagerie of whales and dolphins and sea anemones and cuttlefish and the whole gang. And of course, after having made 50 or 60 of these things, that's an exaggeration, but at least like 20 to 30, we have moved on to space. So now we are building black holes and planets out of paper and hanging it and then chucking asteroids at them and going through the quote black hole, which is a cardboard box, to get the asteroids back to then throw them at the planets again. So that's been the last couple of days.
That sounds really thrilling.
It is
Wow.
interesting. It's one of those things where it would be very, very tempting to say, "Oh yeah, no, this whole thing has really, made me stronger and more focused." No, most days I'm just really, really, really frustrated and exhausted. It is hard to be locked in a house with a partner and a small child with no way to go anywhere or get any of that energy out. And I've heard
Yeah.
that divorces have hugely spiked in this period of time with people being stuck with each other, for instance. So, but
Yeah.
but at the same time, we really are doing what we can to recognize what in this is an opportunity and where simplicity is a benefit for Arthur. I mean, we read a lot of books, and the games that we play are sort of by necessity very inventive. Today we figured out cheeses. That looks like cheese.
Is going into the scrambled eggies.
Oh, and you know what? Actually, so this is to drop Arthur. We'll talk about him later because this is hand to mouth. It's more about food, and I love cheese, so I have to talk about it for a second. Uh, Shredded cheese versus cheese block. Cheese block every time will be cheaper, but here's the question you have to ask yourself. Are you willing to shred the cheese yourself? And I understand the question should be yes, it should be obvious. It seems like it's not a big deal. But I have found over the years that when I can reduce the friction between me and a quick or easy meal, I vastly increase the likelihood that I'm actually going to cook. So if you are the type that finds the shredding of the cheese to just be one step more than you want to deal with, I think at the end of the day, you'll end up saving money by getting some of those things pre-prepared and then using them rather than eating out. Now that being said, it is also possible to buy a block of cheese and shred it at your house. It'll be more clumpy than the stuff because it's not coated in paper and dust, but it will work.
Yeah.
So anyway, Fee, while I rambled, you did a whole lot of cooking, so let's catch people up. We've got onions in that pan, we've got garlic in that pan, we've got tomatoes in that pan. What else is going on?
Salt. I'm gonna add more salt and more cumin. Cumin. I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes if I have like kale or spinach or something green that is left over or not left over, it's also an opportunity like, hey, I should eat some green vegetables.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's that I definitely have a stripe of vegetable that is the weekend leftover slurry that ends up in like a hash or a soup or a
Yeah.
whatever that won't be harmed by a little bit more green.
Yeah, so I'm gonna throw the eggs in now. So this is just 2 eggs and then the shredded cheese. But for something like this, I would not bother buying like a block of nice cheddar, just because it's also like processed in a way so that it's gonna melt well for this.
I actually think for migas and some other applications like that, there's nothing wrong with American cheese. If I were in my kitchen right now and I had it, but I don't, I would make a version of this where instead of the shredded cheese, I would just throw in 2 slices of American cheese and call it good because I'm that lazy.
Yeah.
And because, as you said, the processed cheese has the emulsifier that makes it easier for it to incorporate into an ingredient. It's the same reason that when Binjigli was on, he did the ramen with American cheese melted in, and
Oh my god.
that actually creates a very creamy, smooth broth. It's a process that I want to say Roy Choi came up with. That is supposed to be pretty. I have not tasted it yet, so I never want to tell people, "Oh, this is totally worthwhile" when I haven't tasted it myself. But I've been told it's delicious, and I don't distrust that. I don't have a problem with American cheese per se.
Yeah, I trust Roy Choi. I trust Benjili.
Yeah, like that being said, if you serve it on a cheese plate, I'm gonna think you've lost your mind. But
Right. Yeah, there's this one episode of The Office, like a later season, where I think Michael is still on the show, but like Andy is wheeling into the conference room with, yeah, Andy is wheeling into the conference room with Michael is like hiding on a cart, and it's the shittiest cheese plate because it's like American cheese, cheese whiz, and like string cheese.
right, the Ohio special.
Yeah. All right, that's done. It literally takes like a minute. Sometimes I add butter in here, but I didn't today because I think I had it on a low enough temperature. So
Nice. And then again, and I think that's again part of the reason that migas is such a great breakfast food in general, certainly a great hangover or weekend kind of indulgence food, is that it is so fast. It is such an easy dish. It's the sort of thing where if you're sitting around in your underwear and you're asking yourself, should I get up and go get a breakfast sandwich? No, in half the time and half the effort, you could be eating a giant pile of cheesy eggs with salsa on them.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm not sure that we made that clear, but those tortilla chips were also crushed up and mixed in with the eggs, I believe. Or do you do that secondary, afterward fee? Do we have tortillas in there, or do you do the tortillas after?
Yeah. It's the tortillas. I chopped them up and threw them in.
Yes, I missed it because I was blathering about my son. So after we chopped and toasted the tortillas, Fee tossed them in the pan, scrambled those with the onions, pepper, eggs, tomatoes, and cumin. So that became sort of the migas in and of itself. And then generally, you top it with what?
Today I have some parsley. So I guess cilantro is the more appropriate one, or whatever. And I made some really crazy like hot sauce salsa stuff. I don't know what to call it the other night.
Oh, nice. What's in there?
Well, it is 2 like roasted jalapenos. So I charred the skins, a bunch of garlic, an avocado, lime, salt, mayonnaise, and parsley. So, but it's just like a lot spicier than. It'll burn a bit, but it's a good burn.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That sounds delicious, actually, especially on migas. That sounds Oh, look at that! Look at that!
Yay!
You could spend $20 on that at a brunch place, and it wouldn't be half as good or half as big. That looks amazing, Fee. Thank you so much for coming and sharing. Actually, that's really one of my favorite egg recipes. And if you're broke and you're trying to eat protein, eggs are one of your best friends, and figuring out different ways to eat them so they don't get old is a really critical thing. So migas, I
Yeah.
think, is one of the best things you could be figuring out how to make for yourself if you've already figured out basic scrambled eggs, basic eggs over easy, that kind of thing. This is a really wonderful way to change scrambled eggs up without adding a whole lot in the way of cost or ingredients. So I think it's a great one to
Yeah.
share with the audience, and I hope that the Hand to Mouth Club will try it out this week and let me know if they enjoyed it. Yeah! I've never said that
Yeah.
before. I'm making it up as we go because the live shows are about my id. So in any case, Fee, so tell us what you're up to these days because it has been forever. You're doing a ton of theater. There is a ton of work available online that people can go see. We're going to be adding descriptions to that under the podcast, encouraging people to check it out. So please go see it. If you're a fan of SMBC theater stuff and you're a fan of Felicity Doyle, there is more video out there that you should be aware of and participating with. She has been doing some tremendous theatrical work out in New York for the last 7 years, and also is a fantastic musician. I'm not sure what is available right now for people to consume, but anything that we should point people to. If there's one particular thing, let me know. Otherwise, we'll point them to more things the next time you come by.
Yeah. Well, one of the, as James mentioned, I've been working with a theater company pretty much ever since I moved to New York. Our name is Jetchi Theater. It is a very different tradition of theater. I would call it process ritual theater.
I
So
love it. I grew up in Black Box weirdo theater. My buddy who directed my first play actually ran the Ontological Hysteric in St. Mark's Church for a number of years way back in the day. It's what I used to admit to other people. I called it toolbox theater because the level of into theater you needed to be to get the full experience was pretty high. But secretly, I really, really enjoy a good old fashioned theatrical freak out. It's one of the. I think artistically, it's one of the few mediums out there where people can't get away or feel safe in the way they can with something that's in their hand or away from them on a screen.
Yeah, I mean, in normal times, I don't even know how to talk about COVID and what's my current state of talking about normal versus not. But if we would perform, we would perform in spaces, but now we can't perform in spaces, at least for now.
Oh, that has to be maddening for so many people. And I saw you did the Zoom thing, which I've not had a chance to actually watch, but I do want to check out. But I just for serious theater or actors and performers and artists, not having a physical space to put people in is really rough. That's crippling. That's half of what you get from a theatrical performance.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna change the experience for now or for forever. I don't know. It's been interesting because we've been meeting for rehearsals on Zoom twice a week, and it's you still get a sense of the group that you're in, but just the in-person contact, which as you said is kind of the crux of the theatrical experience, is impossible. Where does that leave us?
I think
It's a gaping question.
I think more to the point, I think this is historically a time where artists are having to ask themselves that almost universally. The difficulty of not being able to have people in a room together is tremendously, makes it there will be a few Hollywood blockbusters that essentially quarantine people for a month and then like go to some exclusive place in Boca Raton, not Boca Raton. I don't know why I would, but you know, wherever they go, the secret part of New Zealand or whatever, and make their multi-billion-dollar things. But if you are a smaller, more independent artist, this is a very tricky time for you to figure out how you can create and express yourself effectively and share that with anybody that finds it useful or meaningful. With a lot of your tools taken away. I mean, you know, if you're trying to do film, you can't just get your buddies together to go make something. That's not okay anymore. You know, you can't have big public gatherings for musicians or the theater or what have you. There's no art galleries. Nobody's going to go tour an art gallery. I think no matter what you're doing, you're sort of message in the bottling for at least a year, where you're trying to sending people, hey, I exist and we'll have things to talk about. Here's the best we can do this year, kind of thing. It's interesting.
Yeah. You know, it's like all elements of quarantining and being unemployed. I'm at a point right now where it's been long enough. I'm used to like living in a pandemic. And now there's like more and more that's happening countrywide, that there's like, oh, there's something else that I can do. But also like, you know, I'm not like a hard ass. I try not to be a hard ass on myself about like, I'm going to spend 2 hours playing the auto harp. I'm going to spend 2 hours reading this intense academic book about Scotland, which is one of the things I've been reading. But it's like, on the other hand, I am also in this, I feel like I'm in a creative space that I never, ever had the time for since college.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like all this stuff initially, like, oh, this is the time to write the great novel. And then like people would shame people for saying that. And the internet is ridiculous. But
I think there's always, the problem with the internet is that there's always an unhappy person that wants to make you unhappy too. And as a species, we are just built to take in negative stimuli and highlight it so that we don't get eaten by a tiger. So unfortunately, when we build the Tower of Babel, and now if somebody in Florida is having a terrible day, they can make sure that somebody in Seattle knows all about it. And suddenly you think that everyone's mad at you. And no, just some random person in Florida that you're never going to see again, right? It's tricky. It's tricky. It's really tricky to keep it in mind. But, you know, I think we're long enough into quarantine that at this point that if you are being conscientious and wearing a mask like an adult and mostly trying to do what you can to minimize your risk to yourself and other people and all that kind of stuff, you're allowed to try to take some amount of the time left over for self-care and expression. What else are you going to do? Are you supposed to just like sit there and feel bad? That seems like a bad strategy. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's, and at the same time, when in our lives have we had an era where it felt more critical to be part of the conversation or add to the conversation? You know, back when we were doing SMBC theater, we were trying to be funny, and I think we did a good job, but there was always this, a little bit of a vibe of like, you know, there's things to complain about, but it's mostly okay, right? There was a little bit of that feel, and I don't think like that exists at all anymore. Like we are in a very different time for artists in terms of what it feels like to make art and the level of danger. Like for instance, back when we were doing SMBC theater and I do a political sketch, there wasn't ever a moment where I thought to myself, this could get me on a list, right? I think that now. I'm still going to do it because I'm nuts, but
this could what? Sorry,
I'm saying, you know, like back when we were doing SMBC theater, I would kind of say whatever I wanted. I never thought about a repercussion at all, you know? And now when I think about doing a political sketch or political humor, there's part of me that thinks I could end up on a list if I do that as sharply as I would like to do it. And I'm still going to do that because I'm crazy and I don't really have a self-preservation instinct. But it's a different world. Like we are in a very different world when it comes to what it feels like to express oneself publicly. So I think in some ways that could be very good for us. I think that, you know, well, what's that old adage? Hard times breed hard people. And maybe we'll be the crotchety, angry grandparents of some overly satisfied and comfortable younglings when we're all in our 70s and 80s, cursing them for taking for granted the social safety net we rebuilt. That'd be great. I'll be very pleased if I die annoyed that people don't appreciate what I helped build. That feels like the right way to go out.
Yeah. Yeah, I look forward to making it to 70 or 80 and seeing how the hell we get through.
Or 500 when we get the robot bodies fee, that we could still get the robot bodies.
Of course. I'm so sorry.
Okay, Fee. I thank you so much for coming and joining me today. I think we're going to wrap it up for today. I have to go show everybody how to make pantry salsa with one blunt end of a wooden spoon in a pot. And then we will be just chatting a little bit and letting people know about what's coming up with Hand to Mouth. But tune in to the Hand to Mouth Club YouTube channel. We're going to be posting this up as the podcast for the week with Felicity Doyle. Felicity, thank you so much for joining me. We're going to have a bunch of links for Felicity down under this. Please go check them out and support her in whatever way, whatever she's doing. And I hope that we'll have you back. This was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing Mika's. What a great one.
Yeah, this is so much fun. Thank you, James.
Okay, thank you, Felicity. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
James, have you been forcing people in my chat to drink?
I haven't. I go. You know what? Who knows? Who knows what happens when you go? Look. You are here to take care of your audience, and if you leave them in the hands of the space demon. That's on you. Okay. What happens when you go? You just pay for when you get back. Okay. That's just.
All right. You will enter a world of swords and sorcery where giant lizard things think thievery and regicide is a good idea. You know, these days I kind of think thievery and regicide is a pretty damn good idea.
Welcome to the channel. We are trying out Cook Serve Delicious. We just wrapped up Dungeons and Lesbians. That'll be in the VOD tomorrow. And the next game will be A Mortician's Tale. So come cuddle up. We are about to create a restaurant empire. Now, I was reading CHASON, and apparently this is a game that could go on for 60 plus hours. So this live stream might get inordinately long very quickly.
I don't think I'm going to play this game for
That's right, 30 minutes minimum. All of this is your problem. Now, all I need to do is manage you. So in my mind, I'm the manager of this fast food restaurant, and you are my employee, and I am here to judge your ability.
Can I play the game, or are you just going to keep talking?
No, I'm just going to keep talking. That's what I do.
Okay.
This game is a weird version of masochism.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. I need
no
to.
One is
I need.
Everyone is
I need to use the bathroom. Flush. Sanitize. Finish. Okay. Open basin. Fill eyes. Seal. Okay. Let's get this hot dog. Okay. This hot dog. They want a premium bun.
Just throw them. Just throw them out.
Yeah. There you are. Okay. Oh shit. We got this. Okay. They want a pretzel bun and cheese. How do I do? Oh yeah. Cheese. And ketchup. Ooh, that's gross.
Yeah, you do have. There's nothing wrong with cheese and ketchup on a hot dog. That's a delicious dog right there.
Whatever. Cheese is awful. Stop talking to me. Dear Mia, of course we will happily oblige your request for no embalming and for closed casket. Okay, we already know that. We're happy to be with Rose and daughters for my mother's funeral. We understand that there are usually procedures that must be followed in these situations. But if you could kindly not embalm my mother, that would be greatly appreciated. We'll proceed with a closed casket for the service. I just know she wouldn't have wanted her death to have any negative impact on the environment, since she fought so hard to beat her death, to beat her heart disease, and to live healthily. It would be ashamed of her final moments to be counter to the way she lived. Oh, that's sweet, James. So when I die, if it's technically possible, I will
make sure you burn.
Yeah, I want to be burned, but then I want my ashes to be compressed into a diamond and then shot into space so that I can wander in space forever.
All right. Well, when I die, I want to be put in a glass coffin.
No, we've already been over this.
It will be attached to my fortune.
Your wife has vetoed this.
Whoever controls the coffin controls the fortune, but you must display it prominently as your dining room table and cannot mask it or hide it or put a tablecloth on it. You must eat off my dead face.
This would totally be the easiest will in the world to get overturned. Me, the one who got the phone call, hung up and started laughing. Just laughing her ass off. And that way...
Yeah.
James, can you read for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. just laughing her ass off in that way that makes you not sure if you're really just crying or if they're gonna go fully off the deep end. And she laughed, and then we all started giggling because, like, go figure, life is messed up sometimes, you know? There's no moral, no point to that story, I guess. I just remembered that story and wanted to tell you because we work with death all the time, and I still sometimes get caught off guard by what that actually means.
Oh.
Well, who put in money? Let's see. Let's see who
Good
won.
job, James. Are you happy?
Let's see who won it all.
No, but I thought I would be. Chason, why doesn't this victory fulfill me? Wait.
Yeah, you're the winner,
Okay.
James.
All right,
Good
and
job.
then Face Demon! Ooh, by a lot, too. That does feel good, actually. Never mind. Yes, this does fulfill me.